Well, hello, soccer fans. Randy McKee here with Soccer 605, and I'm here with my normal partner in crime, Coach Chris Derry. We're going to talk about the proceedings of this last week. We had a fantastic set of semifinal games around the state, and it just when you see the kind of parity that we had, even though some of the games didn't really end up with the kind of scores we like. So let's go ahead and start. Um, with the boys here and just take a look at what we saw. So let's talk first about Yankton traveling to play Sioux Falls Lincoln, and that was a pretty interesting match, just because Yankton's been a very organized team, and you're coming up every time you play Lincoln, especially in the postseason, you're coming up with a team that has the expectation of winning the whole thing every time. So, I mean, Lincoln's a tough team to deal with in the postseason.
Yeah, Lincoln over the past, it's been probably, 8, 9 years. Every year they expect to be in the final game, and thus far, there really hasn't been a reason for anyone to doubt that. They've put together a quality team every year. Every year they're definitely tough to play, and you know, playing them on their home turf was a tough match for Yankton.
Well, yeah, and, after I've watched the last couple of games, and Taryn Schuster there has been, hanging out at the top of the leaderboard for quite a while now, and you look at Schuster and the kind of goals he scores, and you gotta just think, anybody who lets that guy run around in their backfield is bound to pay the price, because the guy's a stone cold finisher and he never quits working.
Yeah, he has earned the reputation, and rightfully so. He's one of the better players in the state. He was one of the better players in the state last year, and now this year as a senior, he's just gone above and beyond. Probably anyone's expectations other than his own. And to go up against a kid like that, for any defense is tough.
Well, and Yankton tried their best, and actually, they toward the end of the first half and toward the middle of the second half, they made some progress, and actually it was kind of odd when we watched them play Pierre to get into the quarters, or to get their first home field game. They started out the game kind of playing direct, and that was not working, so they went to shortening up the game. They shortened it up, played some tiki-taka soccer, got to pick their routes through Pierre's defense, and that really worked great for them. But they played the shorter soccer against Lincoln, and that was ineffective for them. But once they went to a longer game and a little more direct game, they spent some time in Lincoln's backfield.
Yeah, every team has a identity. You and I both know that, Coach. We've watched a lot of teams, and every coach has a certain way they like to play or coach or whatever. And I think for Yankton, for the team that they had with Leno up front, who really came on this year, and really for, I would say, most people came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But he was a kid that just all of a sudden showing up on the scene, and where he shined the best was when he had the 1v1 matchups. You play that ball in there, he got in behind, and he had a 1v1 with the defender, and when he got 1v1, it was dangerous. Versus when I watched him play with Pierre, he struggled when he had to. They played the ball side to side, they were slowing it down, trying to knock it around. I mean, he made some really nice little runs, but where he really shined is where he had the opportunity to get in behind and, like you said, play long to him and let him figure it out.
Well, and that kind of brings to mind the matchup now against and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but the matchup in the championship game, because Roosevelt has the kind of team that they'll bring players forward and they do like to run, so it should be pretty interesting. Anyway, that game ended up 3-0. Really a pretty good game, and well, Yankton don't have anything to hang their heads about. They played the best they could, and I mean that's just it. Just didn't end up being their day.
Yeah, nothing Yankton has to be disappointed about. I thought they were going to be a tough team from the beginning of the year. They were. Their record showed how good a soccer they played, and unfortunately, when you get to the playoffs, someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. So hats off to Warren Brenner and Yankton. If you look at their squad, they're going to lose what is it, 7 or 8 seniors, I believe. But as far as some of their really key players on the field, you got sophomore standout Trayson Slate, on the back line. You have a freshman keeper. You got Colin Noah up front, who's a sophomore as well. I mean, you got some kids in the middle who are sophomores and juniors. They're going to be tough next year. Hats off to the seniors. They had a good run, but next year I don't see Yankton going anywhere.
Well, that's true. So right after this game, we walked a couple fields away and got to take a look at a very strong Rapid City Stevens side going against the team we had ranked all through the year as the top team, including preseason, Sioux Falls Roosevelt. I expected a lot more difficult game for Roosevelt than what they had. I mean, they ended up winning 6-1. Colby Scott had a hat trick in the first half. And everybody knows about Colby Scott. That it's no surprise, anything that guy does. But I thought, Coach Wilkinson did a pretty smart thing because Stevens they wouldn't let him have a breath of fresh air. The first 10 minutes of the game, actually, Stevens really was dominating the game. They couldn't find Colby Long. They just couldn't quite get connected. And all of a sudden, Coach Wilkinson brought Colby back in the middle of the park. And, the Stevens defense had trouble sorting him out. And, a minute after he moved him back in the middle, Colby had a goal. There was just a little ball that popped out there, and Colby just went up and first timed it in. And that was just, that was the start of the onslaught right there.
Yeah, beginning of the year, we talked about in our preseason, Coach, about the tough squads out there and the teams that we thought were going to be, up there at the top. And it's fun to see that for the boys' side, we had the teams that were in the Final Four. We had in our top 5, at the preseason, and Stevens all throughout the year they played great soccer. Nothing more disappointing than coming to the semifinal game and not having the opportunity to move on. And again, like I said, for Yankton or Lincoln, someone's got to lose. And I think the game out there was a lot of personal 1v1 matches that were lost by Stevens. There was, some areas where I think, they coaching wise, they got out coached by the Roosevelt coach. He made, like you said, the little subtle move of moving Colby, back into the midfield. As a coach, you got to recognize that and figure out. Obviously, they had a game plan for stopping him. When he changed that game plan went out the door, and they didn't adjust real well. So, but there was a lot of things that Stevens can be proud of this year. They had a lot of great seniors. Brennan Lytle, Derek Beaumont, Jordan Hayes, Noah Storm. I mean, there's a lot of kids out there for that Stevens team that really played their guts out, and their high school careers came to an end, earlier than they wanted. But again, hats off to a lot of those seniors.
Yeah, and it's always sad to see him go. But the wheels of progress roll on, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. With the changing of the guard. the bad news is Stevens are losing a lot of good seniors, just like Roosevelt are, and just like Lincoln are. But they have a good pipeline of young players in behind them. So that's going to be an interesting match. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's move over to the A boys then.
Hey, Coach,
We
before
yeah,
we
yeah.
move on, I want to take a personal minute here, if you'll indulge me. But throughout the year, one of the Rapid City Stevens players, Brendan Lytle, um, has been playing his guts out. And to my recollection, I mean, I've watched Brendan for many years. You know that. Um, he played probably some of his best soccer I've ever seen him play. And I want to take a moment to just say, his dad has been in poor health and is not doing so well. And but his dad has always been a good, excellent person of character. You and I both know Kip. He's been, a positive influence in Brennan, and it shows by the kind of young man that Brennan is. And I know Brennan has been playing his guts out for him and for everything else, and with all the stuff going on off the field for Brennan, the kind of year that he had was awesome to see. And I hope, beyond hope, that Kip, I want you to know that you're in my thoughts and prayers, and in a lot of our thoughts and prayers. And we really miss seeing you on the sidelines this year.
Boy, I do too, and I missed having those talks after the games because sometimes the talk after the game produced a lot, a lot more clarity than anything during the game. But I always love to get Kip's insights, and you're exactly right about Brennan. He's been playing with a lot of extra pressure this year, but I'm sure when he goes home, his dad is telling him don't be lightening up because of anything surrounding you. You just go play, and that's exactly what Brennan's done all year.
It is, and that's the kind of guy, that's the kind of family they are, Beth and Kip and his sister Lindsay. And I wanted to take a moment, and I'm sorry, soccer fans out there, but if you don't know Kip, you don't understand why this means a lot to myself, and I know it does to you too, Coach. But
Yeah.
our thoughts are with you, Kip.
Yeah, definitely. Well, with that, and I really did. Last week I think, or week before, we were writing about the matchups, and I wrote that Brennan Lytle plays soccer like he doesn't care if he breaks his bones getting to a ball, and you see some of the pictures of the kid out there walking high wire and surfing and doing all the. I mean, every day he's doing something new to challenge himself, and I mean that's just the way he plays soccer.
Yep, it is, and he's had a great year. So great job, Brennan.
All right, let's move over to A boys then, and there are certain times when teams win the right to go on, and you're always happy to earn that right till you see what you have to do on your next step. And I mean that was kind of the case with Hot Springs coming into Sioux Falls Christian this week. But the thing about it, Hot Springs had the kind of year that they just got better. They improved every week. They've got some good, a couple good upperclassmen. That Ty Winnie is a goal scoring machine, but they had a couple of young, clever guys in there too. I would just really, and I mean, they got to be really pleased by getting into the semis this year.
I would think so. They are a young team. They got a lot of enthusiasm. They generate a lot of enthusiasm this year for for their soccer program. I know there's been a lot of people putting in work to make that program go, and Hot Springs has been one that's just kind of been plugging along, and lo and behold, here they are in the semifinals. And unfortunately, all the enthusiasm and everything still didn't help when you ran into, the team that was Sioux Falls Christian.
Yeah, we picked them to be far and away the top team this year, I think, or them and Groton at the top, and that's exactly who we're going to have in the final. and not much to say about Sioux Falls Christian. I mean, they just did what they do to everybody, and they just scored goals, they defended, and ended up winning, pretty big over Hot Springs. And then we looked at the match that I was really interested in because James Valley Christian had to go to Groton area again. Last time they were there, they won 1-0 on that field that's so hard to win on. This week it wasn't quite as good of an outcome for them because they went up there and Groton area ended up taking that game 1-0 away from James Valley Christian, but still a very, very good game.
Yeah, we talked about it early on in the year. I don't know what it was, 3 weeks ago. We talked about the dogfight that was James Valley versus Groton, and I talked to a few people who were at that game, and they told me that it lived up to every bit of a dogfight and then some. It might have gave some new meaning in a few areas. So sounds like it was a heck of a match. Hats off again to Coach Whiff and James Valley. They got some young talented players there. I know they got a young kid, Ryan Wager, who's coming up, who's sounds like he's a diamond in the rough. He's does some really shiny things out there on the field. And again, here we are talking about James Valley Christian at the end of the year with another solid year. They just keep putting them in and year out. You can always count on them to be right there at the end. And this year they just ran into a Groton team that, with their size and their physicality, they were just the better team on that day.
Yeah, and they in Groton area, much to their credit, they're one of these teams that expects to be there at the end, just like Sioux Falls Lincoln do. And I just got passed a note here about the Sioux Falls Hot Springs game. Carol tells me that game was 1-0 at half. So Hot Springs, fought really well, and I mean it ended up 3-0. So I was kind of looking around on the site for scores today, and I guess I hit the wrong page or something. But anyway, yeah, what a great effort by Hot Springs. And so now we move on to these final matches, and let's just take a look at what we've got next Saturday in Mitchell. And the first match I think we want to talk about are the A Girls Championship. So we have that classic battle set up once again between St. Thomas More and Bellefouche. And I've talked about St. Thomas More several times as they might be the best girls team in the state. They were beaten by Rapid City Central, and if you can call a tie a blemish, Bellefouche is the one that did that. They tied 3-3, and then a week later, St. Thomas More went into Bellefouche and won that game 3-0. But Bellefouche has some recollections. 2 years ago, they had an eighth grade keeper, Hannah Remeyer, who was in the championship game against Harrisburg. Kind of had the sun in her eyes and deer in the headlights, actually, almost look. But Harrisburg scored a couple long bombers, went on to win that game pretty big. But last year, Bellefouche was in the final against West Central, lost late in the game, a real emotional game for them. Now they have their third final in a row, and they're up against their neighborhood nemesis, St. Thomas More. I think that's going to be a really, really good game.
Yeah, talk about contrasting styles of play. I think we all know Bellefouche. They play a very fast-paced, physical type of game. I think they've got a couple players out there that are just phenoms on the field. I mean, Jesse Ryan. They've got some girls who love to play, and they play for the right reasons, and they play with a lot of enthusiasm. Coming up against St. Thomas More, who against the AA schools has been, playing like a AA school. They've held their own. When they played Stevens, when they played Central, when they played others, they're just a possession. They can strike.
No.
They can strike from a lot of different places on you. I think it's gonna be an absolute blast to watch that game.
Okay, yeah, Chris, that's One thing, the boss just came down and said, "Hey, this is a boys' show, and you're talking about the girls, so I want to we'll have to cover the girls at the next show, but let's go ahead and get over on the A boys championship, and we got Sioux Falls Christian against Groton area. The one thing about these two teams, they played earlier and tied, um, and then Sioux Falls Christian has just been basically walking through everybody. They played some AA schools and won, tied some of those. Now they're in Mitchell, and I don't know for sure what kind of success Groton have had traveling, but the Sioux Falls Christian have been, I think, 100% on the road.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but talk about a great matchup. Groton brings a lot of size, a lot of physicality, a lot of passion. Um, they play with a certain. I don't know. I'm sure the Beckers are going to get mad at me for saying this, but they play with a certain meanness when they step out on the field. Versus Sioux Falls Christian, who, they got Waynia, they've got, Matt back there between the pipes. They've got some really skilled soccer players stepping out there who like to play a pretty form of soccer, and it's going to be one of those matchups you just want to sit back, in your chair, have a little popcorn, have something to drink, and just enjoy the game because I think it's going to be whose will wins.
Well, I think you're exactly right, and like you were saying, with Christian, they got Lee Winya and Matt Scott back at goal. They got Joey Tennaple, who, Joey's always hanging around getting goals. The guy knows how to score goals. You got Tom Blankenspore there in the middle. I mean, just a lot of real strong senior talent on the Groton side. Of course, they have a real experienced keeper there too, in Chance Strom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they got a lot of good senior talent. Landon Larson in the back, Reese Harder, Sternhagen, Stormy Bar in the middle. I mean, it's just a classic matchup there, and folks are really going to be, I think, treated to a very, very good game there.
I think so. I think it's going to be a fun game. It's like I said. I sincerely believe that whoever's will wins will be the winner of the game. Whoever can make the other team adjust to their style will win this game.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, let's go on to the AA boys final. Sioux Falls Lincoln boys against Sioux Falls Roosevelt. You know, um, I really like the matchup here. Lincoln on the one hand has that expectation that they're going to win. I mean, they show up at training camp in August, and their objective is to win the state tournament. And with Roosevelt this year, they brought in the new coach Dallas Wilkinson, who I think has done a tremendous job there. Last year they kind of had a meltdown in the middle of the season and just struggled, even though they finished having a good team, but they didn't fulfill, I think, what their potential was. So both teams have shown improvement, but Roosevelt, I really do, and hanging around them, being around them, know that they really. They have that expectation of winning this year too. And so, here we are with the final game on Saturday, and who knows what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I said from the beginning of the season I thought Roosevelt was probably the top team in the state. I felt that they had probably the most complete group of kids out there playing the game of anybody. And going into this game, you got a couple of the top goal scorers and Schuster and Kobe, out there. Kobe for Roosevelt and Schuster for Lincoln. You've got just a couple of great overall teams. I'm still sticking by my guns. I still think Roosevelt's a better team. They beat Lincoln earlier this year, which might be one thing that works against them because it's tough to beat a good team twice in the same year. There's going to be some adjustments made, but Coach Wilkinson from Roosevelt, he's shown that he makes good adjustments. He understands what he needs to do to get his kids into a winning position, and I like a lot of the things that they've done this year. so I think it's going to be a great matchup. But you know, I'm going to stick by what I said earlier on. I still think Roosevelt's going to pull this one out.
Well, they sure might. The two teams match up personnel wise just really well. Of course, we talked about Schuster for Lincoln and Colby Scott for Roosevelt, but in the back, I think Lincoln's got they're playing Adam Brander kind of in front of Cesar Cuellar this year, and he's helping knock a lot of attack down. But I'll tell you what, the last couple of games I've watched Colby Scott in action against Washington, then against Rapid City Stevens, I'm not sure there's anybody who can run with that guy. I mean, just the timing on the passes coming out of the middle. They got Johnny Clark, moving the ball, but then the thing about it, they've got Irakosi following all that action up. They've got guys coming down the wings. Damien, has been playing right wing, and he's causing some trouble out there. So if they can get in Lincoln's backfield, I think they will have a good chance to take it. But Eric Crossing, the Lincoln keeper's had a pretty good year, and he's finished very strong. So he's not letting anything in. That could be a big factor there too.
Yeah, there's so many interesting matchups across the field between the two teams, and I like everything you said. I agree. It's gonna be. I just think we'll see. I think Colby Scott's probably going to be the difference in this game. But last time I counted against Schuster, I was coaching against him on the club side, and he burned us for a couple of goals. So I'm not going to say anything bad about Mr. Schuster. He's a heck of a player. But I think that Kobe's. I think it's Roosevelt's time this year.
And it sure could be. And the one thing about Schuster, the last couple games especially, he's played. That he's had teams that let him run around in the back. But I mean, these guys who know him, you got Minor Enriquez back there, Isaiah Bauer, who I don't even know if they listed a position for Isaiah, because sometimes you'll see him at forward, he's in the middle a lot, then he'll drop back and defend. But I'll tell you what, if there's a free kick anywhere within 40, you better be paying attention, because he can put her in the frame. I saw him against Washington curl a corner kick in direct right over the keeper and scored direct off a corner.
Yeah, Isaiah is it's a kid probably that flies under the radar more than he should, he's it's the same thing. We keep talking about Kobe, and like I said, I don't want to take anything away from Terrence. You let him run free just like you let Kobe run free. It's going to be painful to watch you pulling the ball out of the back of your net, because they'll do that. But you got a lot of teammates out there. A lot of these kids play on the same team during the club season. So there's a lot of kids out there who know each other pretty doggone well. So it's just going to be a matter of who has the better day.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And we're going to be there, and we'll be at Mitchell for all 4 games, and we're going to kind of have an expanded crew. Hopefully, we'll be able to do some game analysis. I know there's going to be plenty of coaches hanging around after the games, and hopefully we can round some of those people up and sit down and have a talk. So it's going to be a great week. The teams are going to be out training again tomorrow. They're going to get 4 days of training at least in this week. So it'll be kind of like Coach Wilkinson said, we're in the time of the season now where it's almost exactly the opposite of what the season was like, because we didn't have any time to train. It was just game, and now we've got a lot of training time. So that will make a difference for every team that shows up there Saturday in Mitchell.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm envious of these coaches. Back when you and I were coaching, it was a 3-day tournament, and you had no time to prep for anybody. And now with this new format, which I really like, the fact that you're going to get 4 days, 5 days to really get your kids at the strongest they can be at, put in a game plan, put in a couple twists and turns, and it's exciting to see how the new format is working. I like it, and like I said, I'm envious. If I had this format back when I was coaching, man, I'll tell you what, everybody.
Well, folks, we lost Chris, and he's not even driving down Highway 14 on his phone this week, but I'm sure he'll be back joining us. Well, we were just getting ready to close out anyway, so there's a bunch of thank yous we really need to say this week, and of course, like every week, we want to thank our major sponsors, Home Federal Bank, who's been with us since the start and been a very good sponsor. We want to thank our major advertiser, South Dakota National Guard. On our high school soccer 605 website, you want to go check out their page there because they've got a lot of great information. They've got a great app to be connected to the Guard. Of course, we want to thank Horner Barrow Orthodontics, who's been a great sponsor, and of course, all of our advertisers. Finally, some shout outs to some of our. We had some people around the state this past weekend who were videoing games and getting interviews and stuff for us. So we want to thank Blaze Emerson out in Rapid City, who was at the St. Thomas More Vermilion game. We want to thank Corey Harder up at Groton area. And for sure, we want to thank Allie Zuger, who drove all the way over there from Aberdeen to do interviews for us. Allie's worked with us several times in the past, and she's a great member of the Soccer 605 posse. And finally, Gerald Aldman in Sioux Falls, who was at the Sioux Falls Christian game, doing interviews and getting video for us. So we really want to thank all of you because you just make Soccer 605 what it is, and that's all about you. So anyway, I see you're back, Chris, just in time to sign off. And
I don't know what happened there, Coach.
Well, like I told our watchers when we lost you, I said he's not even driving down Highway 14 on his phone this time, But the things happen. It's a little technical bug. So anyway, I don't know if you have anything to say in closing.
Good luck to all the teams. I don't know where you lost me at, so I don't know what all you heard, but it's exciting. It's going to be exciting to see how all the teams do this weekend, and I'm looking forward to being there and watching a lot of the games.
Well, I'm looking forward to you being there and helping us with all the analysis and everything else that's going to be going on. We're going to be able to watch a lot of soccer Saturday, and that's one thing. I guess our reward at the end of the season too, to end up with 4 very good games. So, again, Chris, I want to thank you. For those of you who are going to carry on with us, we're going to be back on in just a few minutes with the girls wrap-up show. And Chris will be with me on that show as well. And actually, we'll be able to talk about some of these teams in the rate segment tonight. So anyway, Chris, thanks for being with me on the boys show. And we'll see you on the turnaround here in a little bit with the girls show.
Sounds good. Good luck.
And thank you, folks. Thanks for watching Soccer 605. And we'll be right back here in a few minutes with the girls show. Thanks.